Visitors to the Stonecutter estate had grown used to coming across Stax somewhere on the grounds, planting flowers or pruning tree limbs, while chatting companionably with one or more of the cats, who more often than not would be asleep in the sun. The people who lived near the Stonecutter estate thought this behavior was a bit strange, but then everything about Stax struck them as at least a bit strange. His oldest neighbors remembered Stax's grandmother as a skilled miner who never shied from marching into a dark hole in the ground and returned weighed down with rich minerals and marvelous treasures. The younger ones recalled Stax's father as a great adventurer, a smiling man who loved traveling the world and meeting new people. Stax's father had loved tales, and he was pretty good at telling his own stories, and at convincing people he'd just met that they'd be happier if they bought the stone that the stonecutters had mined and cut into polished blocks. All of the neighbors, regardless of how old they were, agreed that Stax was nothing like his grandmother or his father. He went to the stonecutter office every few weeks to take care of family business, but as far as anyone knew, he'd never traveled through the forests, or across the plains, or set out on a journey from the Stonecutter boathouse to visit any of the lands his father had told such wonderful stories about. Everyone agreed Stax was skilled at mining and cutting stone, having learned this craft from his father and grandmother, but he never expressed interest in finding new mines and seeing what they might contain. People who went to visit Stax at the big house by the sea said he was pleasant enough if you talked with him about cats or flowers, but if you tried to have a conversation with him about anything else, pretty soon he'd get a faraway look in his eye and start to fidget, and a few minutes after that he'd make some excuse, and not always a convincing one, and go back into his house. The kind neighbors felt sorry for Stax, who'd become an orphan when he was just a teenager, and asked what was really so wrong with being a homebody who was more interested in cats and flowers than in mines, which miners would be the first to tell you were always dark, often smelly, and sometimes dangerous. But the less kind neighbors said Stax was lucky the other members of his family had worked so hard for so many years, so he didn't have to work hard at all. And as the years went by, and Stax got a little odder with each one, the less kind neighbors came to outnumber the kind ones. Now, there's no way for me to know how old you are. You might be 8, or 18, or 88, or even 888. All right, you're probably not 888. But no matter what the answer is, you know that it's easy for people to be unkind about things they don't actually know a lot about. So let me tell you about one day in Stax Stonecutter's life, the day he came to think of as the last normal day he ever had, because it was the day before everything began to go so terribly wrong. Maybe if you know about that day and what came after it, you'll be able to make up your own mind. Chapter 2. The last regular day. Breakfast with the kitties. An unwelcome visitor. Duties on the estate. A job for an axe. Things are put right, however briefly. This particular day began with a sunny morning. Stax woke up late, in the upstairs bedroom that had once belonged to his father, the one whose floor-to-ceiling windows were shielded from the morning sun by the bulk of the hill behind the back garden. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes and carefully lifted up Cole, who was sleeping on his chest, and then Emerald, who was sprawled across his knees. Neither cat woke up when set gently down amid the rumpled sheets, though Emerald gave a big yawn and stretched himself into a long, contented, furry bow. Stax looked for Lapis and found the Siamese was already awake, sitting at the foot of Stax's bed and giving herself a bath. "Good morning, kitties," Stax said cheerfully, which earned him a purr from Lapis and a twitch of Cole's ear. Still sleepy, Stax put on his robe and stretched, one hand ruffling his tousled hair. From the upstairs bedroom, a ladder led down to the main floor of the house, while a door opened.